Alright, let's do this shit. Hello, welcome everybody. Today I'm gonna be talking about the supposed J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar collaborative album that we're still supposed to get sometime in the future. And I kinda wanna just lay out my reasons as to why I don't want this to happen anymore. When all this shit first started coming about, I was anticipating it, I did want it. But just seeing how both of their careers have panned out, how they have grown from 2010 up until now, I'm really hoping that this shit never comes out. Now, before I say anything else, I am a very big Kendrick Lamar fan. I think Kendrick Lamar's discography is one of the most exciting things in hip-hop right now, especially in the mainstream. And that's kind of the main reason why I don't want a collaborative Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole album to come out, because I think if it ever does come out, it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb in Kendrick Lamar's discography. And the main reason why I say that is because to me, when it comes to strictly making albums, I think J. Cole is so subpar compared to Kendrick. I don't even think them making a collaborative album would even work. Now, when it comes to rapping, I think J. Cole and his 2018 features prove this. I think J. Cole can go toe-to-toe with damn near everyone. I think when you give him a hard-ass beat and you just tell him just rap your fucking ass off, he can fucking rap his ass off. And I wish that's the approach he would bring into his music. I feel like if Cole just focused on bars and hard-ass beats, his albums would be so much fucking better. But it's the fact that J. Cole wants to take the conceptual route, the same route that Kendrick has ever since his career started. I think that's been his main drawback throughout his career, and that's the main reason why so many of his albums have just been average or slightly above average to me. Now, I give props to Cole for wanting to go in the more difficult route when it comes to making albums. I feel like in the mainstream nowadays, you just have a bunch of trap artists who just focus on hearing a beat and just sounding decent over it and not really focusing, not even on their bars, which is what I want J. Cole to do, and just hoping that the song sounds okay. But J. Cole will at least take the initiative of trying to make the very difficult album, which is the conceptual album, which I still think is one of the hardest things to pull off and pull off well. So I give him props for that, but I really hope that he stops doing this, because compared to other people, he is just not up there. When it comes to rap artists making concept albums and strictly just the mainstream, I'm not even talking about underground guys at this point, just the mainstream, I still don't even think J. Cole is up there. I think Kendrick is way ahead of him. I think Lupe Fiasco is way ahead of him. And I even think Childish Gambino, with Because the Internet and some of the other projects that he's dropped, is way ahead of him. So when you compare him to just a mainstream artist, he's not even up there. And then once you start rotating underground guys in there, I just feel like J. Cole's replay value just goes so low, at least for me. And it's because I feel like he tries way too hard to make these concept albums when he really shouldn't. Now, I don't think that J. Cole is the only mainstream rapper that is struggling from this. I think Logic is another perfect prime example. I think Logic, when you first saw him come out with his mixtapes, they were really good because he was just picking really good beats that he was comfortable with and just rapping his ass off. And again, that is very similar to J. Cole. J. Cole in his mixtape days, he was just picking hard ass beat, literally rapping over beats that were already released, or just picking beats that he was very comfortable with and just rapping his ass off. And that's why I think his mixtapes are better than his albums. Same thing with Logic. Nowadays, Logic just tries to do this conceptual story into his albums, and it just takes away from the overall quality of his music. I feel like he tries to tie in all this shit trying to be Kendrick, and he's not Kendrick, he's Logic. And again, tying it to J. Cole, I think the main reason why both Logic's and J. Cole's albums as of late haven't been that good is because, again, they're trying to be way too overcomplicated, when at the end of the day, they should just be rapping their ass off over hard ass beats. Some of the greatest rappers from the 80s and the 90s are still to this day known as some of the greatest rappers to ever live, and they never even fully brought out this idea of having a full out concept album. Like Paid in Full has sort of a kind of concept, but it's not heavy driven. That's not the main reason why people love that album. Same with Illmatic. There is a little bit of a concept, but it's nowhere near as overly complicated as Kendrick is in To Pimp a Butterfly. So I don't understand this overall obsession that some of these mainstream artists have with tying in a conceptual album. Maybe again, that's just the influence that Kendrick has had on these dudes. But these rappers need to understand that you can be one of the greatest rappers to ever live and just focus on very good beats and just focusing on your pen game and trying to maximize your bars to their full potential. Now, I do think that J. Cole can come up with a very interesting concept. The only problem with him is the execution. And when we speak on concepts, something that I think needs to be spoken about a little bit more is the fact that a concept doesn't need to be overly complex. When you look at Good Kid, Mad City, the concept is pretty simple. It's just a guy growing up in the hood and being this good kid and being affected by his surroundings, and that affected his overall upbringing. And it's interesting, and he executed it very well, but at the end of the day, that concept isn't overly complicated. It was just executed very fucking well. J. Cole, on the other hand, has very interesting concepts, I think. The problem is just in the execution. I think there are guys making very similar albums and very similar songs to the topics that J. Cole is addressing. I just think, again, they are executing it very well. When you look at Forest Hills Drive, to me that album is just a watered down version of Good Kid, Mad City. You can go song to song comparing both albums, and there's a lot of similarities in both what they're talking about, the topics, and just the songs between themselves. Wet Dreams to me is just such a mainstream watered down version of Shireen that when I'm listening to that song, I'm like, why the fuck am I listening to this when I can listen to the much better version in Shireen? When I listen to a track like A Tale of Two Cities, even though I like the song, it's again like, why am I fully listening and taking time out of my day to listen to this when I can listen to Money Trees and they're both talking about doing all these illegal activities and just doing anything that they need to do in order to get this money? I feel like a lot of the same subjects and themes are brought about in both of those albums. I just think one executes it way better. And I feel like when we're stuck in this stream age and there's so much music coming out every month, you are competing with other guys when it comes to the type of music that you are making. And you're competing to earn ears to listen to your music. When J. Cole came out and started coming out with these concept albums, he knew that he was going to be compared to your Kendricks, to your Lupes, to your Childish Gambinos, to even the Roots a little bit with some of their concept albums. And even though J. Cole will always have that strong fan base, he is competing with these guys when it comes to me, because if he doesn't make something as good as these guys and he's talking about a lot of the same topics and he's trying to make the same concepts or just trying to be concept driven the same way these guys are, I'm not going to take time out of my day to listen to his music because there's very similar music to his. It is just being made at a much higher level. And again, I'm not one of those guys that thinks that you have to make something so very drastically different in order for me to listen to your music. Like, no, I love every Wu-Tang member, or almost every Wu-Tang member. And when they were coming out with solo projects in the 90s, a lot of their subject matters were very much the same. They were rapping over beats by the same producer in the RZA. And even though a lot of the things are the same in those albums, I still listen to each and every one of those albums because the quality is there in every single one of them. They're talking about a lot of the same things, but since the quality is there in all of them, I can take time out of my day to listen to them. I don't have that need with J. Cole when I already have a Kendrick Lamar here. And Forest Hills Drive isn't the only album that I have a problem with here. When it comes to KOD, I feel like when I listened to that album and when I first heard it, it wasn't all the way there, and I can already tell it just listening to it. I feel like, damn, he didn't really fully nail this concept. I feel like he got off topic a little bit, and I feel like he could have talked about this whole drugs being such a terrible thing in our community way better. And then a few months later, you have Lupe Fiasco dropping Drug Ass Waves, and I'm like, damn, I feel like this is exactly what J. Cole was trying to do. This is what he was trying to accomplish with his product. Lupe in that album was just so dense, and he just had all these different concepts, and he just tied them in. And overall, again, there is much better beats, much better lyricism, much better production. Everything about that album is just much better when you look at the different aspects of it. But just again, talking about just the concept, it is driven so much more better by Lupe than it was by J. Cole. When it comes to concept albums and artists like Kendrick Lamar, when I put on a Kendrick Lamar album, I don't necessarily just pick one song and then listen to it, and then I just move on to the next artist. When I listen to Pimp a Butterfly, I start in Wesley's Theory and I end in Mortal Man, because that is the experience that Kendrick set out for his listeners to experience when he was making this album. Again, he made that album for prisoners because they had all the time in the day to listen to it. So when I listen to a Kendrick Lamar album, it is from start to finish, and I don't just pick one song when I'm listening to Kendrick. That is the goal that everyone should have when they're making concept albums, and that is the goal that I'm guessing J. Cole had. But when it comes to J. Cole, I'm just picking one or two or maybe three songs at a time and then moving on, because he's not fully grabbing me with his concepts. He didn't fully grab me with the KOD concept, and then you have Drogas Waves coming out a few months later with a very similar concept, and when I put that album on, I start in the beginning and I finish in the ending, because he keeps grabbing me in with what he's talking about and how he's tying all these things in, which again is not an easy thing to do, which is why I think that J. Cole should just stick to hard-ass beats and hard-ass rhymes. Now, some might think that I'm overly comparing these two artists, but that's truly the feeling that I get. Again, like I said before, let's take away the concepts. There is much better production, lyricism, flows, stories, and themes in Drogas Waves over KOD. It just happens to be a coincidence that the concept was also very much well-driven. But it is fair to make these comparisons when talking about these artists, because you are always going to be compared to artists that are doing similar things to you. When it comes to Tyler, when he was first coming out in his Odd Future days, if you look at his interview with Nardwuar, he even said that my competition is not in these new dudes coming out, these new rappers. It is Kanye West, because Kanye West is an MC and a producer, and I'm trying to be like that. That is my inspiration. That is my goal. And you could see that Tyler was trying to do that and was trying to envision that comparison throughout early in his career. And you had Goblin came out, and I'm an Odd Future fanboy, so I love all of his albums, but when it comes to the general public, Goblin wasn't received too well. And then after that, he came out with Wolf, which was a great album, and I think it was pretty well received by critics and by fans. And then you had Cherry Bomb, which was a little bit distorted and not a lot of people liked it, but then he reached his full potential with Flower Boy, and now that is critically acclaimed and fans love it. And now that comparison to Kanye and Tyler can still be made, but Tyler reached the quality and the same level as Kanye, some would say. So even though Tyler and Kanye might be talking about similar things and might have a lot of similar characteristics when it comes to making their music, as in making their own beats and having similar sonic visions, both having kind of soulful music when it comes to some of their projects, now one can listen to a Kanye record and then quickly move on to a Tyler record, even if they have a lot of the same aspects, because the quality is there for both artists. Now, if this collaborative Cole and Kendrick project ever comes out, I will be the first to listen to it. I will still be sort of excited for it because, again, Kendrick is one of my favorite artists. And I still think it'll be at the very least a decent project, because at the end of the day, they are both very talented artists, and I don't think they're capable of just straight up making a shit album together. I just think it won't compare to the rest of Kendrick shit, and that's why I don't want it to come out. Now, I do think the album can be all the way good throughout if they just focus on rapping and bars and just hard-ass beats like I've been saying. Because I think both Kendrick and Cole can do that. But just knowing the type of artists they are going to put a bunch of concepts into their music, and that's when I think Cole is going to kind of hold Kendrick back, because when it comes to the execution aspect, Kendrick is just going to outdo Cole damn near every single time. But that's all I have to say about that. Y'all can let me know if you're still anticipating this, if you still think it's going to come out, and what's your overall opinions on Kendrick and J. Cole as a whole. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I will be with y'all very